Okay, so I just got out of watching Thor: Love and Thunder, and this movie was okay. This isn't going to be a game changer for the MCU. It's not even one of my favorite entries in the MCU. This movie I felt was very reliant on the comedy and the silliness. And depending whether or not you've liked the MCU's style of humor up until now, it will be very hit or miss with you. For me, I've found the previous few attempts very lackluster, and I just feel like it's the same jokes rinsed and repeated with every MCU movie. Once again, that's just my opinion. You might really enjoy the humor, but yeah, it all just depends on what you go to an MCU movie expecting, whether you expect an MCU movie to be silly. Saying that though, this movie isn't silly all the way through. There are definitely some more darker parts, which this movie was a lot more darker and horror based than I expected. Um, and a lot of that comes from Gore, the God Butcher, which he's the standout here for me. He's the highlight of this movie. If I was to watch this movie again, it would be for Christian Bale's performance as Gore, because I think he has some of the best scenes in this movie. Like his first encounter with Thor that takes place in what is it in New Asgard. I thought that was a standout sequence in this movie, and I thought he just nails it as Gore. I could have gone with seeing more of him because he's not in the movie a whole lot, but he does have a decent amount of runtime in this movie. They could have fleshed out his character a little bit more. Like he does have a his motivation. I don't know. I don't know. To me, it's like it's a bit confusing because I see that you know, like he's desperate for love, and love is a big theme that's used in this movie. But I just found his his motivation at the start and then where it goes at the end. Kind of I don't know. I felt like it changed throughout the movie. But yeah, besides that, I felt like the movie could have maybe written his character better. But yeah, putting that aside, the comedy in this movie, I want to talk about that. There's a few things I want to talk about in this video, but yeah, I'll start with the comedy. So the comedy, did not work for me in this movie. There was one moment where I laughed in this movie, and that was at the end where they did something with Thor's hammer that I really enjoyed, and I thought that was a funny joke. So, but everything up until the final 10 minutes of this movie, I could not get into the humor, especially the first 15 minutes when the movie starts. It's very it's very what's the word? It's very pushy on its humor. It's just joke after joke with no payoff and no setup, and it's just a whole bunch of jokes. I guess to get you settled in for an MCU experience. Um, but yeah, so yeah, the humor I didn't really like that. Let's see what else is there to talk about. Okay, there's a few comments. Taika Waititi has said that when I was watching this, I felt like this is an insult. What he said here. So in an interview I watched with him when he was breaking down the VFX uh, from the movie, he was insulting his own VFX artist by saying something like some of the VFX in the film are unfinished or don't look good. What the fuck? Like, and I don't want to go off on a rant here, but this is just something that is so bothering me with the recent article that came out about how the VFX artists are working under poor conditions and aren't getting paid that well when they are a main source of making this movie. Like, it's all of the MCU movies are very reliant on CGI, and this is all thanks to the visual effects artists for creating that experience for us. And then while during the press of this movie, he just decides to, like, whether he's being serious or not, he's still insulting his behind the scenes crew. And so I think that's something that really bothers me, since I'm sure they work their asses off to get this, to make the VFX look as good as they can. And here's the worst thing of all: they don't have to do it. They don't have to do it if they don't want to. And so I think, like, that just really bothers me, that you know that the VFX that we are seeing a very stunning looking film here. Like, this film is very visually appealing with its landscapes and with some of the different worlds that we go to throughout the film. And it just, yeah, that just really bothers me, that the VFX artists are working like under such poor condition, and they don't have enough time to finish their work. Like, I understand, I can understand the business point of view there, but to treat them kind of, poorly and all that, and to make them work overtime when probably majority of these VFX artists have families and have kids to look after. And so, yeah, you look at it from that point of view, and it's just, yeah, okay. Anyways, yeah. Yeah, I won't talk about that much, but yeah, there's my little rant on that. But yeah, the VFX in this film I think look really, really good. There are a few spots where it doesn't look that good, but yeah, for the most part, like, it's not like a big detail, but it's just something that I noticed, and it didn't take me out of the experience, but it's not something I noticed as something that didn't look as good as it could be. Yeah, all the action in this movie is great, especially the final battle between Natalie Portman, or AKA the Mighty, what is it, the Mighty Thunder, and Thor versus Gore. I thought that was an amazing final battle in the film. I would like to see more of Gore, because I think he's just, yeah, he was the show stealer here. I know a lot of people are saying like Russell Crowe is the he's the show stealer here as Zeus. Like, I liked his little scene, but yeah, I wasn't huge on it like a lot of other people. Um, but yeah, Gore, I really liked his kind of powers of kind of, putting darkness over people, and then kind of bringing nightmares to life, and bringing all these different creatures to life. I really liked that. I liked the designs of all of the creatures that Gore, I guess, created. I really liked all that stuff. All that stuff was great. Um, yeah, the after credit scene, which I'm gonna put spoilers in the title here. So the after credit scene is revealed to have Hercules in it, and so we're gonna see Hercules in a future MCU film. And then there's a second after credit scene right at the end of the credits, which this one's, I think, my favorite, where we see Natalie Portman and fuck, what's his name? Fuck, just had a mind blank. Shit. Can't think of his name at the moment. I'm sure if I hear the name, like, I'll know who I'm talking about. But yeah, we there's this like big reveal in the final after credit scene, which, yeah, I really like. I'm excited to see more of that kind of afterlife world that they set up in that. So I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see all that stuff. Um, I okay. I thought the MCU was going to go in a more darker route, since Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness came out, and that movie kind of just introduced like a new kind of world and style for the MCU, by introducing all these like horror elements and going a more serious route with their movies. Maybe it's just me, because I'm just not a big fan of the comedy style that the MCU does. And I was a big fan of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I'm surprised that they aren't carrying on with a more serious tone. like I understand, Taika Waititi is behind this movie and all that, and so I can kind of understand why it's comedy, since he's the director here. But just I would like to see kind of more of that horror style that the MCU has introduced, kind of come forward. Um, and yeah, so and that's something that the horror is definitely here, but it's more in very small portions. And yeah, and I liked all that stuff. I liked all of those moments in the movie. I did feel the second and third act were a lot better than the first act of the film. And the Guardians of the Galaxy, speaking of them, they are in this movie. What is their role in this movie exactly? Because they show up at the beginning and then they leave, and then there's a few scenes in the uh, end of the second act where they could have come back, and they never do. So I don't know why they are even in this movie when they're only on screen for maybe like 10 minutes max. Um, but yeah, what we saw of them, like I really enjoyed that. I thought that was I thought that was I thought it was fun. Yeah, but I think really my final thoughts on this movie is I thought this movie was a big disappointment. It definitely has moments of fun. I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy this movie. I'm sure a lot of people have enjoyed this movie. But yeah, for me, I can't see myself going back and rewatching this movie again. But I was glad I watched it. I was glad I can get a review out for you guys finally. But yeah, this movie was just kind of meh for me. So yeah, they're my thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder.